Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Model N webinar, Maximizing Selling Time for Semiconductor Reps. My name is Michelle Zicka. I'm with Model N, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Some housekeeping before we begin. If you can't see the slides or hear the speaker, please send us a note through the chat window in your control panel. Also, we will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so you may submit those through the Q&A window in the control panel as well. We will get to as many questions as we can, time permitting. For today's webinar, Maximizing Selling Time for Semiconductor Reps, our speakers are Hanan Greenberg, Vice President and General Manager at Model N. He has over the past 10 years engaged more than 50 semiconductor companies worldwide to assist in their sales operations with pricing and margin improvement initiatives. We also have Shankar Saikia. He is a Senior Solutions Consultant at Model N, and he has domain experience in CRM, supply chain, discrete manufacturing, and analytics in the hardware. And now over to Hanan.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this morning's webinar about maximizing selling time for semiconductor representatives. We have prepared a quick agenda. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Model N, we will provide a quick overview of who Model N is and the customers that we serve. And then we will focus on the sales effectiveness in semiconductors, and we will share some findings from a McKinsey report that covered this topic in great detail and discuss some of the recommendations of how companies can improve the sales effectiveness of the organizations. We will then hand over to Shankar, who will walk you through a presentation of how Revvy sales can help improve sales productivity, and then we will circle back at the end for questions and answers. Throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit your questions through the chat window, and we will try and respond to as many of them as we can at the end of today's webinar. So with that, let's get started. For those who are less familiar with Model N is a 16-year-old software company based in Silicon Valley. We have two business practices, one focused on the life sciences space and the other focused on high tech. As you can see on the slide that I'm sharing right now, in the high tech space, if you were to remove a couple of outliers like Microsoft and VMware, then the overwhelming majority of our customers are very concentrated in the semiconductor and component manufacturing space, ranging in terms of the size of the companies from the tens of billions and all the way down to sub $100 million in revenue, even sub $10 million in revenue. We've worked with a variety of companies in terms of the different product lines they have, commoditized product lines like the memory space, or highly proprietary product lines like analog chips with companies like Linear and Maxim and others. And we also serve companies with broad line product offerings like ST Microelectronics and On Semiconductor. One of the key things to mention is that all of these companies that are mostly very well known all had solutions and processes for many years, long before Model N came along, whether it's for how they handle their sales processes, their quoting, their pricing, their channel, and also additional value in what Model N brought to the table and selected to implement the Model N solution. We are also very present and accessible to the distributor space. And in this slide, you can see some of the top distributors worldwide who access the Model N system on a daily basis to self-serve on quotes, prices, submit registration, design registrations, submit their point-of-sale data, inventory information, etc. These companies are not Model N customers, but they are accessing our system given access by the Model N customers who use our system. Just a couple of additional statistics today in the semiconductor and component manufacturing space specifically. We have over $50 billion of revenue under management today. That means that every price, every contract, every incentive paid out to the channels is handled through our system. Over 50,000 users in the sales departments, sales operations, field application engineers, finance, and marketing inside the organizations. And as I mentioned earlier on, many of our customers have opened up the system for access outside the firewall to manufacturing reps and distributor users. We have over 1,000 distributors, manufacturing reps, and stocking reps in 50 countries who access our system today to self-serve on these processes. Model N interfaces on the back end with SAP and Oracle, on the front end with our Revvy sales applications and our CPQ applications and incentive applications. We deliver that through the Salesforce One platform, so we have a strong partnership with Salesforce.com. And we also embed analytics within our applications using the Click technology. So that is, at a very high level, Model N, the customers that we serve, and the presence that we have in the marketplace. One more word about the solutions that we bring to market. Model N delivers a CRM squared vision of combining both CRM as well as revenue management in one paradigm and one continuum. So on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see the customer relationship management solution, which is basically our Revvy sales application built on Salesforce One and using many of the native objects of the Sales Cloud, but built specifically for semiconductor and component manufacturing. And then on the left-hand side, we have our Revenue Management Cloud, which includes our deal management application covering global pricing, quoting, and contracts. It includes the Deal Analytics and Compliance application, which helps rationalize price concessions and track and manage compliance of volume commitments by end customers. The Channel Management solution, which covers everything from the debits to the point-of-sale data, inventory, channel contracts, price protection, etc., and then our rebates application specifically for those type of incentives. So that's, again, at a high level, the solutions the Model N brings to the market. And the idea is that a salesperson can log into their to one system and manage whether it's their opportunities, their leads, their samples, their quotes, access to the contract, see channel point-of-sale data, escalate price requests, all through one UI, one user experience paradigm. So that's the Model N solution that we bring to the semiconductor and component manufacturing space. With that, let me get to the main topic of today's webinar, which is sales effectiveness in semiconductor and how we can really maximize the amount of time that salespeople have to sell. And let me start by giving a backdrop as to why this really matters. The semiconductor industry growth has decelerated significantly and is projected to range from as low as 3% and more optimistic assessments of 5% next year, depending on which data set you prefer to believe, whether it's the IHS forecast or the World Semiconductor Trade Statistics Organization. But at the end of the day, it's looking to be mid-range in the single-digit growth rate for most companies for the industry as an average. On that backdrop, the efficiency and productivity of sales organizations has a material impact on the cost of sales as a percent of revenue, and it also impacts how much market share companies can actually capture. The industry survey I mentioned earlier on that was conducted by McKinsey has shown that there is wide variability in the cost of sales as percent of revenue, ranging on the low end from companies operating at around 2% of revenue and some companies operating at north of 6% and even 8%. And that is a very wide variability in how sales is working inside these organizations, and indicates that there's a big difference in the productivity even when you're comparing similar organizations in terms of size and end markets that they serve. These are some of the findings from that survey, and the blue columns here indicate the number of respondents to the survey in percentage, and the orange columns here indicate the cost of sales as percent of revenue. And you can see here again the variability that I was talking about earlier on, where you have companies on the lower end of the equation spending 2 to 3% of revenue on the cost of sales, and you have, if you look on the right-hand side, the companies are spending north of 5%, 6%, and 8%, totaling at around 40-odd% of the industry, closer to 50% of the industry, spending more than double and in some cases even more than triple the cost of sales of the companies on the left-hand side. And again, these are all companies in the same industry, serving the same end customers. That variability in the cost indicates that there are some differences in how effective the sales organizations are in these different companies. Even when you factor in all the other differences of end markets and different sales cycles, and when you even out the aspects of different product lines, that variability is still significant. So what are the key drivers that are impacting sales effectiveness. And it starts with sales strategy. And we're seeing a lot of companies sort of have transitioned to focus on focusing their sales strategies on the addressable market versus the total available market. And while there's a lot of logic and reason for companies to do that, the negative or downside of that approach is that many companies are disqualifying deals too early. And if you do a waterfall analysis from their total available market down to their addressable market, down to the actual deals that they're pursuing, and you reduce the ones that they lose to competition, you get a really extreme picture of as little as 7% of the addressable market being captured by these companies. That is a very, very drastic outcome, and it really means that a lot of deals are being disqualified way too early in the process, and it translates simply to less market share and less revenue being won by these sales organizations. The second piece is overemphasizing the farming of existing or key strategic accounts and not spending enough time hunting for new opportunities. This again is really about how salespeople's time is managed and how it's measured. On average, when asked in the survey that McKinsey did, companies, again, when you looked at the average of the sales organizations, were spending as much as 3 times to 5 times more time on their existing companies and or on the existing revenue streams within the companies they already have, compared to the time spent on prospecting with new customers or prospecting for new design opportunities inside the companies they've already penetrated. And that is just too far skewed. It also is indicative of how much of the salesperson time is being spent on logistic support and ongoing support for existing customers, which indicates that they're possibly fronting too much work for other parts of the organization. Last but not least, the poor solution selling capabilities, which means that, number one, salespeople are not spending enough time to understand the customer needs and the gaps and translate differentiation and value that the company can bring to how they can deliver that to the customer. They're not spending enough time cultivating a broader web of relationships in these organizations. And generally speaking, especially in the market that we're working in today, where product portfolios have become more diverse and the end markets we're serving have become more diverse, it is more difficult for the sales organization, both the sales reps and the FAEs, to truly optimize how much of the company's broad product portfolio is being proposed as a total solution to the customer. So all of these things together have a material impact on how effective the sales organization can be. When we continue focusing on other drivers that are impacting sales effectiveness of the sales organizations in semiconductor companies, this is a quote from that survey: "There is a lack of proper sales tools and marketing materials, which also drags down sales effectiveness." And this really means that the salespeople are spending a significant portion of their time on internal meetings, collecting information from different departments, whether it's from sales operations, whether it's from marketing, whether it's from logistics, whether it's from the supply chain, whether it's from finance, getting product information, getting customer information, transactional data. It is not atypical for a salesperson who is going into a meeting, into an account, to not know what is this customer buying from us, both in terms of value and volume, but even down to what product lines are they buying, what product lines are they not buying from us. So flying blind into meetings like that is not good, so the salespeople have to spend their time collecting that data, looking at the transactional data, and of course spending their time producing reports. All this time is really getting educated, and it's not really customer-facing time. When you look at the actual time that is spent on customer-facing activities, according to the survey done in the semiconductor industry by McKinsey, it's only 26% of the salesperson time is actually spent on customer-facing activities. And that is actually a bit of a generous way of looking at it, because that time includes the meeting preparation done internally. It includes travel time. If you were to actually look at the net time that was being spent with customers, it would be even smaller than that 26%. So in our minds, when we think about sales, we think about somebody talking to a customer. And what this survey was clearly showing is that it's probably less than 20% of their time that the salespeople are actually engaged in direct conversation with customers. And that obviously is a huge impact on how effective they are. So when you combine these two things, the first thing we showed earlier on, which is more about the sales strategy, the focus on the addressable market, disqualifying deals too quickly, focusing on farming the existing accounts but not developing new opportunities, and then so little time, what this slide is telling us, so little time being spent actually facing the customers, that really explains that variability we showed earlier on, where to drive the revenue that we currently have, you have companies that will spend 2% and you have companies spending 8%, and a big driver of those two differences is how effective the organizations really are. So what are the recommendations or the things that companies should take into account when they're thinking about how do I improve the performance of the sales organization? First of all, setting clear revenue and margin goals for customers and segmenting those based on the customers based on those properties is really important. Obviously, not all customers are made equal, and you need to allocate your time based on the potential value of those customers. You've got to be careful when you're doing that, because you never know when the next small company is going to become the big one driving, or the new product introduction that's going to drive new consumption. So it has to be done hand in hand, not just looking at the segmentation of the customers and their product lines based on size and current revenue potential, but also hand in hand with marketing. What is the total available addressable market, available market and addressable market, and how they expect it to evolve to segment how you spend your resources. The second thing is aligning the resources and their allocation of both the sales reps and the field application engineers based on where demand is actually being generated and where design activity is actually happening. And it's actually a very difficult exercise to do when you have salespeople often allocated by territories, and those territories have certain accounts in them. Those accounts are first and foremost viewed based on the revenue that they're generating. There is a tendency to look at that first, and it is not atypical to find a situation where you have people covering existing revenue, but you don't have enough coverage where actual new demand generation and new design activity is happening. And when you have potentially hundreds of salespeople and FAEs, and you might have hundreds, if not thousands, of opportunities and registrations, getting that aligned correctly is a bit of an art and a science combined. Investing in sales process qualification to make sure that deals are not excluded for the wrong reasons. Again, toning back the focus on addressable market and really factoring in back a little more of the total available market to really rationalize where we're spending our time is probably going to yield very good results, because again, if you looked at that overall waterfall of going from total addressable market to the actual market share being as low as 7% on average, means that there is a significant opportunity being left on the table or not pursued, and some of those should be brought back to active pursuits. The second piece in terms of recommendations is to reduce the amount of time that salespeople have to invest in data collection, administrative tasks, and to a minimum, and drive customer-facing activity to at least 60, if not 70%. That should be the optimal goal. If you look at the companies that had better performance in terms of ratio from a cost of sales to revenue, you would find that in those companies, the sales organization's time spent on customer-facing activities was closer to 70%, whereas on the lower end, you'd have companies performing at less than 15% and 10%. And if you look at it from an industry average perspective, if we said earlier that the average was 26% in the marketplace, that means that many companies are faced with looking at how do we double the time our customers are spending on customer-facing activities and reduce by half the amount of time they're spending on all this internal work that they're doing. So that is a significant challenge, and again, as we go into the rest of the presentation that Shankar will be showing you, we'll definitely try and show how some of that can be achieved through the Revvy sales solution. Investing in solution selling enablement A lot of companies do training, and then people move into new positions, and new people come on board, and they have to be trained again. It's very difficult through training alone to achieve a good consistency of knowledge, so that salespeople know that whenever they're faced with a certain opportunity, these are the optimal things that they can propose to the customer across the portfolio. Other companies have chosen to create either intranet solutions, shared folders with block diagrams in them, or even searchable websites. But at the end of the day, all of those are still dependent on the diligence of the salesperson, the time they have to invest in it, and how current the information is. And so when we talk about solution selling enablement, we're talking about how do we embed that into the process where instead of the CRM solution just being a data entry experience for the salesperson, how can we turn that into something that is actually pushing data back to them proactively based on the end market or the application they're selling to, and suggesting what else can be sold. And that makes it a systematic approach rather than a process and a training-dependent process. Last but not least, being able to track and manage performance. Again, what I mentioned earlier on, where you have, if you look at the average, let's say $500 million or $1 billion semiconductor company operating with anything between 100 to 500 salespeople, depending again on the nuances of the company, and at any given moment pursuing hundreds, if not thousands, of design registrations and opportunities, it's actually very difficult for sales management to easily understand who are the resources, who are the salespeople and field application engineers that are truly contributing to growth and bringing new opportunities to the table versus the ones that are just living off the run rate business and the farming of existing business. And there is a tendency to measure them against the revenue that is associated to their territory, and obviously their commission check is indicative of if somebody has a big commission check, then he must have done something to earn it. But again, because such a large component of that is driven by run rate business, it is not really enough to measure just those two things. And it really merits going down to the next level and looking at who is really contributing to new customer acquisition, who has really contributed new designs into the funnel, how many of those have converted into revenue over time, and that really is telling you the difference between the farmer and the hunter and who is driving really added value to the sales organization. And again, I think that a lot of companies are challenged to do that easily. It tends to be a bit of a science project that takes place maybe every quarter, maybe once a year, to do some evaluation. Some companies don't do it at all, and they just rely on the revenue and the commission check. But frankly, we feel that that is not an accurate measure of the value and the efficiency of the sales individual. So those are the main recommendations and things and thoughts that we would like to share. With that, I'd like to hand this over now to Shankar, and I will hand over to Shankar as we speak to show you basically how the Revvy sales solution can help drive that sales effectiveness. So Shankar, hopefully you have a presentation and you can take over.
Thank you, Anand. Can you all see a login screen with a blue background?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for that great presentation, Anand. My name is Shankar, and as Michelle said, I've been in the industry for a long time. I have a lot of experience in the semiconductor industry on the manufacturing side, on the sales forecasting side, CRM, and revenue management. So I'm very excited to take you to a short presentation demonstration of Model N solution. And I'll really cover 4 different areas. The first area I'm going to cover is how a sales rep can be more effective by managing their account. So an account view, and showing how an account view consolidates sales information, including finance information, key designs, and news. And really, the goal here is to help a salesperson spend more time in front of customers, less time with data entry, something that Hanan echoed in his presentation. The second part of the demonstration is going to be giving you a view of a salesperson managing opportunities and how they can drive more socket wins. If you remember, Hanan said that, what if they could have an additional socket win while they are communicating with their customers? So I will dive a little bit into solution selling, being able to track sales stages of different sockets in the same opportunity, and I'm also going to show you how a salesperson can manage samples very easily from within an opportunity. The third part that I'm going to show you briefly is mobile access. So it's all about making the salesperson more effective. That's the theme of today's presentation. And I'll show you a few mobile screens to show you the very same application that I'm going to log into on the web is also available on a mobile solution. You just need to download it from the App Store. And finally, I'm going to show you how you can measure performance. You can't improve if you can't measure is an old saying. And I'll show you how, because of Model N's unique solution of CRM and revenue management, we're able to create these reports very easily and really help you improve your performance. So those four aspects, account, opportunity, mobile, and performance are what I'm going to show you. I'm logging into a web browser here, and I'm a sales rep or a manufacturing rep. And I'm going to say, you know what, let's log in. And I can log in from anywhere. I can log in from an airport. I can log in anywhere where there's an internet connection. And let's kind of say, okay, the first thing that comes to my view is something, if you're familiar with Salesforce, this looks like Salesforce. It is Salesforce with the addition of Model and Semiconductor solution aspect. So anything in blue is really something that we have added. So this is semiconductor-specific capability that Model N has added to our Revvy sales solution. Let's dive into an account. So I want to be more productive. I'm a rep, and I want to take a look at one of my accounts. One of my accounts is Samsung. So let's dive into Samsung. And when I dive into Samsung, you'll notice again more blue boxes. Blue boxes equal semiconductor capabilities that Model N has delivered. So for example, I can look at quotes that have been part of this account. I can look at orders that have gone for this account. I can view contracts. I can view point of sale. It makes my job more easy when I don't have to access information in other systems. They're all in one place. We got one of our VPs of sales of a $2 billion semiconductor company told us a sales rep typically requires 3 to 4 hours of research and prep time to get this kind of information. We have put all of that information in one place. We even allow a person to look at, for example, performance. So Hanan mentioned how you need to be able to measure performance. So here we have progress towards target. We have a funnel over time on the right-hand side. Why is that valuable? If you remember, Hanan said that you might have a good run rate business, but what about future opportunities? Where is your funnel over time? What if your funnel is declining over time? You can take proactive action if you're able to look into the future, if you can look into your future funnel. That's another aspect I want to mention is having finance information in one place. So what if you could bring in revenue information? What if you could bring in shipment information all in one place? Here I have my top opportunities. I have my value of these opportunities. Information that you want in one place. Opportunities are actually within Revvy Sales. What about point of sale data? What about orders? What if you use SAP for orders or Oracle for orders or NetSuite for orders? All of that information you can access from within your account view. Another relevant information is, for example, what's going on with this news? What's happening in the semiconductor space related to Samsung? And I mentioned that industry is growing at 3 to 5% depending on the source that you trust. So there's a lot of consolidation going on. What is the latest acquisition out there? How is that relevant to Samsung? So we are able to import information from sources like Yahoo and Google News to make the rep's job easier. So the rep spends more time in front of customers, less time trying to search for information. The next thing that I want to show you is our key designs. What are some of the key designs that we're working on? You see the list of opportunities? This shows all the key designs that this account is being involved with right now. So the value here is, hey, instead of having to access it in a separate screen, I can see it in one specific place. You see these blue boxes again? I want to keep going back to the blue boxes. These blue boxes are semiconductor capabilities that we have developed. Okay, so very quickly from an account view, I showed you how it consolidates sales information, gives you your key designs and recent news, and all these other capabilities such as being able to look at a total addressable market. And I'm talking about the total addressable market versus the available market versus what you really want. What if you could measure all of that? What if you could actually plan it early in the process? That was Hanan's first recommendation, is to be able to plan well. You can plan well when you have that information recorded in the solution that you use for your sales and revenue management processes. Let's now dive into the opportunity. Now I'm into that second of the 4 aspects I'm going to demonstrate to you. Let's look at this one opportunity, S6. So I'm going to click on S6, and here I'm going to show you a couple of different things. Once again, all the information that in blue is our semiconductor capability. For example, what is the pipeline value? What is the total shipment information for this specific opportunity? So once again, saves me time, allows me to get more socket wins. So the question is, how do I get more socket wins? One of the phrases that Hanan used was solution selling. So solution selling is the ability to actually have the system tell you what are some other recommended parts that you can position and sell to a specific customer. So here, I'm working with Samsung, and I'm going to say, you know what? I have 5 line items over here for these 5 different sockets, and then I have an ASP and a total quantity per system. Hey, what if I could recommend an additional part? What is the system going to help me recommend? So I click on Configure Solution. And again, this is a paradigm shift in CRM, where we are saying, you know what? I don't have to know what parts that I need to recommend. Let the system tell me. And this also helps newer sales reps. It also helps in an environment of mergers and acquisitions where you're acquiring companies, you're acquiring more product lines. How do you train your reps quickly enough? Or maybe you need to ramp up salespeople quicker, and that solution selling can help that person in the sales process without having to really go through an elaborate learning process. Right? For example, here I'm going to say, you know what, solution selling. Let's go and take a look at, in addition to these 5 parts, what else can I recommend? So I click on solution selling, and it's going to say, here are some end parts, a smartphone, for example. And I'm working with Samsung. They're coming up with the Galaxy 7. And for the battery, I have a block diagram over here, and I can say, hey, you know what? Here's some additional parts I can recommend. Let's click on battery. So I click on battery, and it says, hey, here are these 2 parts, and they're recommended. I can click on more information, such as additional data sheets, additional specifications. So very easily, I click on one of these, and I say add, and that's part 1 of solution selling. Part 2 would be, okay, what is the price that I should recommend here? What is the right price? Again, instead of logging onto a separate system, looking at manual reports, I just click on view pricing. And what it does, it actually brings up the price schedule. So it's going to tell me what is the right price for the quantity that I'm proposing. So again, if you have this information in your CRM and or revenue management solution, you can access the information, helps the sales rep, 1, spend more time selling, less time looking for information, 2, get additional socket wins very, very easily. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go back to the opportunity. Something else I want to point out is we also have, in addition to managing the opportunity specific stages, each of these line items in the opportunity can have their own specific stages. We all know that in the semiconductor industry, different parts are manufactured in different schedules. So I'm putting my cursor where it says socket stage. It says that the first 2 are in production, the last one here is in customer interest, and for some reason we lost this 4th one, so I can go and drill into that one and see why we lost it. The value here is being able to have multiple items in one opportunity and managing each one according to its manufacturing schedule. The third thing that I want to mention is also being able to manage follow-on process. So let's say you won the opportunity and your prospect and our customer says, hey, can you send me some samples? A lot of companies have different systems. In the earlier part of Hanan's presentation, he said companies have systems. It's just that they're in siloed applications. They're in different applications. Here we've consolidated all the important ones in one place. So very quickly I can say request sample, and what it does is actually going to populate a sample request with those 5 items that I have in my opportunity. The business value here is, again, saving you time, allowing you to really manage logistics and shipping for samples all from one place. All right, so very quickly, from an opportunity perspective, I showed you having information in one place, such as shipping and point of sale. Second, I showed you solution selling, being able to have the system recommend to you what parts you can sell in addition to the existing parts you've already been proposing. 3, I showed you the sales stages for the different sockets. And 4th, I just showed you how you can very easily add sample requests to the opportunity. Now, that is a subset of all the other capabilities that we have. I wanted to show you a few just to kind of pique your interest and hope you're more interested and come back for more information. The third part I want to show you is mobile access. So with our Revvy Sales solution, you can actually download the Revvy Sales solution mobile product directly from the App Store. And I'm going to show you a few screens. So here, the same opportunity S6 is here in my mobile screen. This is actually a static screen. This is a screenshot. I cannot show you the mobile application because we're actually doing this over a WebEx. But here, what it shows you is S6, and this is actually our mobile application. So that shows you the list of opportunities. And again, this conforms to the Salesforce 1 specification. The screen looks a little bit different because it's conformed to, in this case, the iPhone UI. And so another view here, for those of you who have foreign locations, you know that Hanan said something about 1,000 distributors. And if you have foreign locations, then we also have localization capabilities from a language perspective. So very quickly, mobile access, the screen conforms to either the iPhone specifications, including international access. What I want to point out very quickly is we also have language for even a web version. So if you're looking at now a distributor logging in, and this one is in Japanese over here. So what this is showing you is a person that logs in from a foreign location can view the application in the foreign language, either on the web and or mobile. Why is that valuable? Because today, a lot of shipments, a lot of sales activity happens in the Far East. If you look at any company's 10K report, you'll always see that a lot of their sales activities happen in Asia because that's where a lot of manufacturing happens. Okay, so with this, what I'm going to do now is the last part of my presentation is really measurement, and I have put together a small report here that is really taking information from your revenue management solution and CRM solution and really helps you measure performance. In fact, if you look at what Hanan said the first thing about recommendations was to plan well. Second thing he said is to reduce the data entry. And in that, one of the bullet points was to be able to measure activity. So here, I'm going to log into my the performance metrics. And you see this is actually a very simple looking chart. It's actually very powerful. So it shows, for example, $667 million of revenue and a 91% attainment. And that's well and good. In fact, on the right-hand side, it even shows you the revenue by location. So if I put my cursor in any of those locations, because San Jose had 40 million of revenue, and that's very good. What if you want to drill further and you say, you know what? Okay, that's a global view. I now want to take a more local view. So I'm going to click on North America, and everything changes. So what changed are the revenue and quota attainment. Shows you all the sales reps, and then it shows you the quota attainment per sales rep. So being able to measure performance at a very high level and being able to measure performance at a more granular level. And you can dive even deeper, so you can say, you know what, okay, now that I have revenue, what about manager Jenny Smith? So I click on Jenny Smith, and now I can really drill into the reps that report up to Jenny Smith. I can see the quota attainment for Jenny Smith, and then even see the locations. And so I can say, you know what, okay, let's not look here. Let's go and look at Asia Pacific, and let's take out North America. And let's look at Peter Chen. Where's Peter Chen? And in fact, it goes all the way to the specific location on the map. I'm not showing you Taiwan, but it's in Taiwan right here. So what's the business value? The business value is being able to improve performance by measuring it. And how do we enable it? We enable it because we have the data structures, because ours is a semiconductor-specific solution. And one of the, Hanan mentioned 4 numbers. He said 30, 50, 1,000, and 50,000. 30-plus customers, 50 billion in revenue that we manage, 1,000-plus distributors, and 50,000 users. I'm going to add one more number to that, 15 years. That's how long Model N has been in this business of having solutions for the semiconductor industry. And because we know the domain well, we've been able to develop a solution and improve it over different iterations, being able to produce information such as this. So let me just quickly summarize what I've gone through. I've gone through 4 different aspects of the solution. This was a quick demonstration, and first thing I talked about was accounts, being able to measure account activity, which consolidates sales information in one place, helping the salesperson save time. Second, I went to an opportunity view and saying, how does a salesperson perform solution selling to get more socket wins, being able to manage sales stages for different sockets, and being able to do things like logistics, sample requests from one place. The third thing I showed you was mobile access. I showed you how the same screens that you're seeing on a web on a web browser are also available on a mobile device, and that also includes both U.S. English location, English language, as well as foreign language support. And finally, I showed you how you can measure performance because, one, we have the right set of tools, the analytics. As Anand mentioned, we are a partner of Click. And second, one reason we can do that, or two reasons why we do this, one is that we have the right data structures, and second, we've developed this application over 15 years. With that, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to transfer it back for Hanan to continue on. And I want to thank you all I want to thank the audience today, and I will be on the phone here to answer any questions. Hanan, do you have control now?
Thank you, Shankar. Thank you very much for that excellent presentation. And let me just share my screen here. Hopefully I'll be right back up. There we go. So just to summarize again, the main points that Shankar was sharing was that some of the unique capabilities of Revvy Sales, whether it's the transfer business and managing duplicate opportunities, making sure that companies are not working duplicate opportunities through different channels across different regions, is actually a direct impact on sales effectiveness. Tracking and managing sales performance through the reports that you just saw, looking at new design contribution to the funnel and conversion into revenue, being able to manage samples and quotes within the same UI, the solution selling process, the support for mobility, all of these are significant contributors to the sales effectiveness. And whether it's already an effective sales organization that now has more time to do more and capture more sockets and designs, whether it's an underperforming organization that can improve, at the end of the day, it all translates into driving more designs into the funnel and grabbing more market share. When you combine sales and processes like the ones that Shankar has just shown you in Revvy Sales, with some changes or adaptations to sales strategy that we mentioned earlier on in terms of creating a healthier balance between how you view addressable market versus total available market, we have seen companies have a real material impact on the contribution of sales to the financial performance of the company. So with that, let me hand over to Michelle and see if we have any questions that have come in throughout the webinar.
Thanks, Hanan. And for those of you who might have some questions now that we've finished with the presentation and demo part, please don't forget to submit them through the Q&A window in your control panel. We actually do have some questions. The first question is, on the one hand, the survey is saying that there are not enough sales tools, but on the other, many salespeople don't like using CRM and would attribute that as a waste of time doing data entry instead of selling. How do you reconcile these things?
That's, first of all, it's a very valid point, and it's a good one to raise. When salespeople think of traditional CRM, they do think of it as something that they're simply compelled to use because management insists on it. It's just a visibility tool for management, and it's just data entry. Hence, it falls in their mind under the idea of, this is just going to be a place where I'm wasting my time. It's not helping me sell. And to the point that Shankar was making as he went through the presentation, what we try to do with Revvy Sales is really introduce a paradigm shift to how CRM functions and the value that it delivers. And we've done that in a few ways. One is through the solution selling bit, which is now, instead of just being data entry for the salesperson, we're now proposing to the salesperson what he can sell. Secondly, we're doing it in a way that reduces the data entry for them because of that socket stage selling tracking. We actually reduce the data entry for them by at least 50%. So that is the first paradigm shift from a CRM perspective, is you now have something helping you sell, and you're actually doing less data entry to capture it. So that's something I think salespeople would actually like. When you combine that with the fact that for those who also do samples, they can now do it in the same system. They don't have to go to other systems to do that. When they now go to the account view and it's actually driving to them all the information that today they manually have to collect through emails, through meetings, through phone calls, whether it's how much the customer is buying from us, recent news about the customer. Revvy Sales has changed all those things to actually be a time saver for them. And so as salespeople start seeing that, I think that the concern about adoption will go down and the value they get to see from it goes up. I think, again, it's a valid statement to make that, everybody's had one or more CRM systems in their lives, and it's normally been viewed as just something they were compelled to use. But we're seeing, especially now that we also tie that to our revenue management capabilities with quoting and pricing, they can get deals done faster, they can get quotes turned around faster, and they're doing it all through one UI when they're mobile, when they're on their tablet. It is really a productivity enhancer and it's giving them more time to spend with customers instead of taking it away.
Thank you. Okay, we do have another question. Are the analytical reports you showed a part of the Revvy sales product, or do I need my own BI license?
So the whole approach to BI is different from one company to the next. Most companies have some investment in BI, have some form of license for BI, and they bring in a lot of data into their data warehouses and produce reports. There's two, and that's fine, by the way. The two issues that do happen with that is, number one, these reports tend to be more executive-oriented and not focused on the field users, and therefore they're less accessible to them. Secondly, they're not always embedded, again, within the same tools that the user is using, so it becomes somewhere else that they have to go and get the information. So to answer that question, first of all, the ClickSense reports that Shankar was showing earlier on are actually included in the Revvy sales license, so you don't need to get an extra license. So there's no additional costs. You're not paying for BI twice. It's all included, inclusive in the solution. And as I said, it is built specifically to track these things that are useful for the salespeople and is embedded in the UI they're using anyway.
All right, and the next question, has anyone measured how they successfully changed the time allocation of their salespeople?
That's the $64 million question. So the answer is there is anecdotal information. There is no real, there is no survey or enough data that we've collected to prove that point, to be very honest. We have anecdotal examples of companies that have been able to reduce work on administrative tasks by 10 to 15%, been able to spend less time on reports by 5 to 10%. But as I pointed out, they are anecdotal. As Model N is deploying more and more of Revvy sales solutions in the semiconductor industry, we actually do have a few of them that are putting together case studies to analyze and capture that data. They're even doing, in some cases, deployments to one group within the company and leaving another group within the company off the system deliberately in order to be able to measure those absolute results. It's going to take us about 6 to 10 months maybe to gather those results and be able to publish them. So stay tuned, and hopefully in 6 to maybe 12 months from now we'll be able to do a webinar where we can actually show the implications this has had on sales effectiveness beyond just anecdotal examples.
All right, the next question we have, the data you showed aggregated nicely in the account view screen is cool, but in most cases, salespeople do not have access to this data, so we still need to do the research and prep work?
Yeah, so again, what we're trying to do is to avoid exactly that point. It is true that, again, very often not enough information is being shared with the sales organization. There is always some issue of trust between sales operations, marketing, and the sales organization. Just how much information can you safely put into the hands of salespeople? And it's always an interesting debate in these companies. We generally believe that if you put intelligent, useful information in the hands of salespeople, it's like giving them a map, and they're going to get to their goal or to whatever they're trying to do more effectively that way than when they're flying blind. So it's true that, again, I've seen several, actually I've looked at 15 different deployments of CRM solutions in the semiconductor space, and in most of them, the transactional data, for example, of what is the customer buying from us, by product line, by region, those kind of, what are the key designs that are happening across different regions, is not always accessible to the salespeople, and what I see is mostly downside to that, because either they go in blind or they spend way too much time trying to find that information. So Revvy Sales has created the receptacles and the data connectors to suck the information out, whether it's from a data warehouse or whether it's from the ERP, and present it in a meaningful and easy way for the salespeople to use. And so we can make that data available with the right security controls to the right people in the organization, and again, push it through the UI they're already using. It's also obviously a policy change for the company to decide we want to push that data out there because we do believe it's going to make our salespeople more effective. So Revvy Sales can support it, but it also, in some cases, is a process change.
And then we have another question. You have spoken the whole time about direct sales, but how does this relate to channel sales effectiveness?
So that is a great question. I think we did actually focus in this entire discussion on the McKinsey report and Shankar's presentation. We're all focused on direct sales, the internal sales organization, and the FAEs. When it comes around to channels, first of all, when you go outside the firewall, the first group I look at is not really a traditional channel, but it's like an extension of the sales organization. Those are the manufacturing reps. And what I see most companies do is they give the manufacturing reps the same capabilities and the same tools that they would give to the internal salespeople with some minor variations. But that means that at least for the manufacturing reps, you can essentially drive the same level of sales efficiency, focus, and tool enhancement that you would for your internal salespeople. With the channels, it's a little different. There are certain things that you would not be doing. There's definitely a lot less data being shared on total available market and addressable market and those elements. However, a lot of the aspects of managing the design registrations, getting the design registrations approved, making sure that if they need support from sales coverage or FAE support, and aligning those resources there, being able to allow them to, from within their registrations, also initiate quotes and get those quotes processed quickly. All those things are still highly applicable. And so I think that, first of all, from an operational perspective, maybe not all, but a big portion of these things can be applied to the channels. I think also from a management standpoint, going back again to those types of reports that Shankar was showing, being able to show and analyze the performance of the channels, being able to see which ones are truly driving revenue, which ones are generating a whole list of registrations that are just gathering dust and not converting into revenue. Being able to see how many of them are actually taking you into new markets that you weren't in before. All that type of analysis is really important. Actually also analyzing through which channels do customers prefer to transact through. I mean, sometimes they have preferences that one prefers to work with Arrow, another prefers to work with Avnet. Understanding that and making that information visible to the salespeople is extremely important, and again, drives efficiency. It helps rank the channels in terms of their contribution to the business, and is a very meaningful way to drive the QBRs that companies have with their channels on an ongoing basis. So I think there's both an operational opportunity to improve the efficiency, as well as more of a holistic management approach to managing the effectiveness of the channels.
Great. That looks like that finishes off the questions for us today. If there's any last-minute questions that you'd like to get in, we still have a couple of minutes. Otherwise, I want to thank both Hanan and Shankar for their time today, and I also want to thank the audience for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you all very much. Bye.